As it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be when the Son of Man returns. This is what Jesus is speaking to his people. He's saying that in the days of Noah, they were eating and drinking, being festive, being jovial. They were getting married and giving people in marriage, meaning the fathers are giving the daughters off to be married. It's a festive time to some extent. Because if all you ever read was this, you would say the judgment for sin was not warranted. But if you go back to Genesis 6, you'd find out just how corrupt and violent this area was. The world was filled with violence, cruelty, unjust gain, where people would sell out somebody else for power, just like now. The things were corrupt that society's decay had began to be so bad that the stench of death and sin was so bad that God had to judge it. And God gave them 120 years to get right. He did. He speaks to Noah. Noah starts to preach. Noah starts to build the ark. But Noah wasn't the only one that was preaching. And there's some names you got to remember. Methuselah, Noah's grandfather. His name means his death will bring. So everybody knew what Methuselah meant. Methuselah was living a long life and nobody really thought too much of it. But when he dies, something drastic is getting ready to happen. So also you have Noah's three sons. He has them before the flood. He has them while he's building the ark. So he has three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Shem's name means name, as I've spoken before. But it also means, in pictograph form, the judgment of God, where God is going to judge the world of the sin of the world by destroying it with water. That's what Shem's name means, destruction by water. Then the middle son, Ham, his name is, it means a wall holding back the judgment, holding back the water. It does. And I know some people say it means black, but it does not. His name means he's holding back the judgment. And thirdly, Japheth. His name means to extend life or everlasting life. In pictograph form, his name means what God does or what he does, what he says is his covenant. That's what God goes by. So you have four different names other than Noah. We only focus in on Noah because we assume he's the only righteous one there. And that's not true. Noah's family was righteous. God told Noah to gather all these things and gather all these people. Gather, you 8 people are going to get on the ark, and I'm going to spare your lives. Everything was cool until Methuselah died. Really, it was. God gave Noah a chance to mourn his grandfather because Noah knew what was getting ready to happen. So after Noah grieves his grandfather, God says, all right, you and your family come on to the ark. 7 days before the flood. 7. This is something that we skip over. The God seals them in 7 days before the flood. So the judgment of God wouldn't touch Noah and his family because they were sealed in to the ark. They're being covered. That's in the days of Noah. So when the flood came 7 days later, people were surprised. And I don't know how you can be surprised when you've got Noah preaching all this time. You got his son's name preaching to you. You have Methuselah, whose name means his death will bring. As soon as he dies, something bad is about to happen. You have all these clues that God is going to judge sin. And you're like, oh, whatever. Come on, baby, I'm going to give you off to this guy to be married. Don't worry about Methuselah dying. It is what it is. As it were in the days of Noah. Do you know how messed up things have to be? How messed up your mindset has to be where you see somebody building an ark, building this giant boat, doing all these things, he and his sons. And they're telling you it's going to rain. And I know you've never seen rain. But as soon as Methuselah dies, you've heard stories the whole time. You know how creation began. You've got people living that dealt with other things. And then Methuselah dies. Uh-oh. And then all of a sudden you see Noah and his family get on the ark, not only just by themselves, but all these animals show up. You would think you would get your life right. But we don't want to deal with Noah. We say that's a fairy tale. It's not. Noah was a real person. So was his three sons. The whole world was populated by these three sons. God blessed these three sons. The whole earth was populated by these three sons. God blessed all three. God spoke a blessing over them. He did not curse one. God's judgment was swift and precise. He didn't let the righteous perish. He didn't let the righteous perish with the unrighteous and the ungodly. God was swift and precise. Matter of fact, he was so precise, he waited until Noah mourned the death of his grandfather. Noah names his three sons based upon what God was going to do. Do you know how much faith you have to have in God to name your sons destruction by water, holding back water, an extended life? What he does and what he says is his covenant. Noah was faithful. The names of his children shadowed his faith. And you know what happens as soon as they get off the ark? When the floods recede, they worship. They worship. They're in a new land. All the old stuff was passed away. Noah and his sons didn't have to go through the judgment. They were sealed in the ark, as it were in the days of Noah. Remember this, for those of y'all who think Christians have to go through judgment, they do not. That they have to go through the tribulation, they do not. As it were in the days of Noah, so it shall be when the Son of Man returns.